Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Bailey here, and welcome back to another Top Things video. And in this video, I will be discussing my top 10, that's right, top 10 TV shows that were for kids that I used to watch when I was a kid. And some of them I still watch because they're mature enough for me to be watching. And they will be from any type of channel when it comes to like Nickelodeon or perhaps Cartoon Network or even Nick Jr. Any channel that used to have kids shows on when I was a kid, I will be doing my ranking for those shows. So without further ado, let's get into my top 10 shows that I used to watch when I was a kid. So, for my number 10 spot, I would have to go with none other than Blue's Clues. That's right, Blue's Clues is a show that I used to watch when I was really young, and I gotta say, I used to love that show when I was a kid. I mean, it helped keep myself busy when I was young. I mean, whenever my parents were doing something or whatever, or I just didn't have anything to do, I would used to watch Blue's Clues when I was a kid. And I believe I stopped watching Blue's Clues at least during the time I was 6. I was watching Blue's Clues up until the time I was about 6 or 7, I think. So I gotta say, I used to think Blue's Clues was such a good show, and that's why I had to make my number 10 spot Blue's Clues. Number 9. So for my number 9 spot, I would have to go with Bakugan Battle Brawlers. That's right. Bakugan Battle Brawlers was a show that I used to watch on TV when I was a kid as well. This was after I was 6, obviously, but I gotta say, the fact that this show had so many other seasons that I never knew about, like literally, you got the original, from the logo, obviously. You have New Vestroia, you got Galendian Invaders, and then you got the Mechanarian Surge. Meaning, there was 4 seasons of different versions of Bakugan Battle Brawlers, all within seasons. You got the original, like I said, and then you got the other 3 sequels. And I gotta say, I decided to try to rewatch all this to see if to make sure I would put this in my top 10. And I gotta say, I loved this show. It was so fun when I was a kid, and it definitely was fun watching even now. And I gotta say, I mean, I know that it didn't really air as much in the US as it did in like other countries, but I gotta say, this show was pretty interesting to watch. So for my number 9 spot, I have to go with none other than Bakugan Battle Brawlers. Number 8. So for my number 8 spot, I would have to go with none other than SpongeBob SquarePants. That's right. Now, even though this show is the only kids show that has mostly still been around almost for years now, and it's still kind of airing new episodes as far as I'm aware of, I gotta say, this show was doing okay when I was a kid, and even though a lot of these newer episodes are still kind of okay, I mean, I don't really watch it as much right now, but still, I used to like it when I was a kid. I mean, and there's been a lot of negativity towards this when it comes to adults. Like, a lot of adults used to think then that this show apparently kills brain cells for their children, and that's why some of them don't do as well in school. Well, I'm here to say then that when I watched it almost non-stop when I was a kid, and did I fail in school? Nope, I still got through. And even I have I have a disability, but yet I still got through it. I passed all my classes when I was in school, and it never had anything to do with SpongeBob killing brain cells. So if you're currently a kid right now and you agree with me on this, let me know in the comment section below. But Anyway, for my number 8 spot, I would have to go with SpongeBob. Number 7. So for my number 7 spot, I would have to go with Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. That's right. Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius was a show on Nickelodeon that I used to watch when I was really young. It was around the same time I was still kind of watching Blue's Clues, but also after it had ended, I started watching that one mostly. And I gotta say, Jimmy Neutron was a pretty good show. It did show us how anyone at any age could be pretty smart if they were born with the ability, and as long as you study hard, and you would become a great genius like Jimmy Neutron. And I gotta say, this show not only showed how smart you could be if you thought hard and studied hard, but it also kind of it actually kind of did something else in the whole story. Like, there was one other genius in his school that was always trying to compete with him, but not just compete with him. I mean, there have been a few times where this genius also had a crush on Neutron, and that obviously gave it away that this other genius is a girl, known as Cindy Vortex. And I gotta say, Cindy, the fact that her and Jimmy were always fighting over who's more smarter than the other, and I mean, it doesn't matter which of you is smart. I mean, you're both gonna be able to get into colleges and graduate from school early if you could. As long as you think and study hard, you'll get through the school year. So for my number 7 spot, I would have to go with Jimmy Neutron. So for my number 6 spot, I would have to go with none other than Goosebumps. That's right. Goosebumps is a show that aired when I was it didn't technically air when I was a kid. I mean, it was aired in the 90s, but I used to watch it on Netflix when I was a kid, and I gotta say, this show was not only entertaining, but sometimes they would get really scary. At least when I was a kid. Whenever I watch it now, it doesn't scare me as much as it used to when I was younger, but I gotta say, Goosebumps was an interesting show. Now, the reason why it didn't make it into the top 5 is because there were some books of the series that did not get made into episodes that I was really hoping to see how they would incorporate the book into an episode. And I gotta say, I mean, some books, who knows, you could have at least made them into 2 parts, but I gotta say, it's interesting that they didn't make some of my favorite books of Goosebumps into episodes, like for example, The Horror Camp Jelly Jam or Beware the Snowman. Those were 2 books that I know for sure I liked reading when I was a kid. And I mean, some episodes they did, but there was 2 sets of episodes that were based on one story that I don't know if they really incorporated it from the book, but the actual book itself was called The Haunted School, I think, and the episodes were based on a school called The Perfect School. And I gotta say, I don't know if there really was a book of another school called The Perfect One. I mean, if you know whether there was a book based on that version of a school, let me know in the comment section down below. But for number 6, I would have to go with Goosebumps. Number 5. That's right, we're getting into the top 5. So for number 5, I would have to go with Danny Phantom. That's right, Danny Phantom was a show that I didn't watch it as much, but I still thought it was pretty entertaining. And there is something about this show that some rumors have tied it into another show that's in my top 10 that I will be doing in a second, but I will discuss why I feel like these rumors are saying these 2 shows are connected, but anyways, I will now discuss why I liked Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom was a show that I thought was still pretty interesting. I mean, it showed a kid whose parents were scientists and they built a weird machine that, you know, I mean, it's interesting to see how this show aired for so long that it did, and I gotta say, a boy transforming into some phantom boy and fighting off ghouls and ghosts, it's kind of related to Goosebumps, if I would have to say, but this is not what they're connecting it to. But for number 5, I have to go with Danny Phantom. Number 4. So for my number 4 spot, I would have to go with Fairly Odd Parents. That's right. So if you noticed in my number 5 ranking, I said that the next one has been rumored to have connections with this one, Fairly Odd Parents. And like I said, there's been a lot of rumors that Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom are somehow connected, which the one thing people are going on is that if you look at Danny himself and Timmy Turner, their hairstyle looks the same, as well as their face and sort of, and think about it. I mean, the Danny Phantom's friend who has glasses on and is always smart kind of sounds similar to AJ. But as for the girl, I don't know what she's about, how she's connected to Fairly Odd Parents. But I gotta say, I don't know how there's such a huge connection if it's just the fact that Danny Phantom and Timmy Turner look somehow identical. But except, as you know, Danny Phantom's older. But I gotta say, Fairly Odd Parents was a pretty cool show when I was a kid. I mean, they even made movies based on it, starring Drake Bell from Drake and Josh, and like the first ever movie was called Grow Up Timmy Turner, where he was so old that where he was already an adult and he still had Cosmo Wanda granting wishes for him, and then he fell in love with the one girl who he always tried to avoid when he was a kid during the actual show, no doubt, and that was Tootie. I mean, even Vicky showed up in this show, and as an older person, and she was running a daycare. Then you got the next one based on Christmas, and then you got another one based on summer, and the one for A Fairly Odd Summer really knew how to end the show off, the story of the show, pretty well. I mean, you got Timmy all grown up, and then all of a sudden he turns into one of his own fairies, into a fairy just like his fairies used to be. Cosmo and Wanda got reassigned to these two kids, and the story just continued anew. And I gotta say, this show was really interesting. So, for number 4, I have to go with Fairly Odd Parents. Number 3. So, for my number 3 spot for my favorite show as a kid, I would have to go with iCarly. That's right, I just did a top 10 video on this a few weeks ago, and this is my ranking for it, for my top 10 shows when I was a kid, which I still kind of watch it, like I was saying. But iCarly was a pretty good show when I was younger. I mean, and it still kind of is. I love all the comedic purposes they do in the show, and it tells an interesting story throughout all 6 seasons. And like I said, the fact that it went from the starting point of Carly starting the show and Freddie having a little crush on her and didn't really score with it until the very last episode when she was about to leave for Italy. And I found out that even after she left, Freddie, Sam, Gibby, and even Spencer still tried to keep iCarly going while she was away. And I mean, I thought those little bonus episodes were okay, but I still liked it when they did that, when they had Carly in it the whole time. But I had to say, this show was pretty entertaining. So for number 3, I had to go with iCarly. Number 2. So for my number 2 spot, I would have to go with none other than Codename Kids Next Door. That's right. This show used to air on Cartoon Network all the time when I was a kid, and I gotta say, this show was pretty fun to watch. And even though the main story of each episode was about kids battling the forces of adulthood and what adults try to make them do and stuff, I gotta say, I mean, even though it makes sense that it would be a show based on what kids feel like they should not have to do, I mean, the adults are still the winning side, if you think about it, because they're trying to help you for when you do become an adult into the real world, that you have to do a lot of other stuff. Like, take me for example. I mean, I do this channel during my spare time, and I even I do a part-time job at McDonald's, and during the days, at least most of the days that I actually am scheduled. But I gotta say, this show really made me get entertained, and I loved it. So for number 2, I would have to go with Codename Kids Next Door. And now for my number 1 favorite show when I was a kid, and that I still watch a lot of times, even now, I would have to go with Power Rangers. And I'm not just meaning one specific show, I mean all seasons of Power Rangers. I've been watching Power Rangers ever since at least 2003, when I was 4 years old. And if I recall correctly, the show of Power Rangers that was out during that time was Ninja Storm. So from Ninja Storm and on, I used to watch all those shows of Power Rangers, which I still do. And I even watched all the shows before it, Ninja Storm, like Wild Force, Time Force, all those other ones. And I gotta say, this show is very exciting to watch, and I can't wait for season 26 of Beast Morphers to air next year in February, which I will be trying to do a intro reaction to the main intro of the show when it comes out. And I gotta say, Power Rangers is such a good show, and I gotta say, I just can't argue with this being my number 1 spot. So anyways, I would have to go with Power Rangers. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say in my top 10 favorite shows when I was a kid. And as always, if you like this episode, hit that like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see all you dudes in the next video.